Welcome back to the Set of the Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're glad you're with us. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. And we got a guy this week that is right in the thick of things down at the state capitol.
Yes, Treasurer Ken Miller is going to join us, talk to us about how the revenue collection's coming along now. We kind of check with him periodically to see how it's coming in. Does it look bright? Does it look dim? We want to ask him a little bit about what's going to happen with the rainy day fund, what his prediction is about it when the legislature comes back. He's always got a lot of good information for us, and I think you'll enjoy hearing from him.
That's it. So much of what our state does is tied to the revenue. So today, Ken Miller will explain where the revenue situation is for the state of Oklahoma. It's all coming up today on The Verdict.
America has been here before, faced with daunting challenges, and we've always found the courage to lead. Foreign oil, greenhouse gases, we have the power to do something about them with American natural gas. Chesapeake is forging ahead, converting our fleets to clean-burning natural gas vehicles, encouraging others to do the same. Welcome to America. Chesapeake, America's champion of natural gas.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
Welcome back to the Set of the Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Today we're really pleased to welcome back to The Verdict for his second appearance, Ken Miller, Dr. Ken Miller, the State Treasurer of the state of Oklahoma. He did his undergraduate work at Lipscomb College, did his Master's of Business Administration at Pepperdine University, and got his PhD in economics at the University of Oklahoma. He had a career in banking for a while. He is now an economics professor at Oklahoma Christian University, as well as being state treasurer. He served in the Oklahoma House of Representatives, representing an Edmond district for 6 years. And in 2010, he was elected state treasurer by a mere 67% of the vote, squeaked in. Welcome back.
Thank you, Kent.
Glad
it's good
to have
be
you.
here.
Great to see you. Got a big smile on your face. Looks like revenue must be good for the state of Oklahoma.
You know, things are going well in Oklahoma.
Well, you heard 67%. That's enough to put a smile on your
That's right.
Since you've been here, you've been on the job a year now?
Almost, yeah.
So tell us how the job's going.
You know, it's great. I am lucky to get to do what I do. And I tell you, if you get to get up every morning and love to get to go to work, then you're doing all right. And so I'm enjoying it.
So how often do you get data? I mean, you don't get a daily report on sales tax or income tax, but how often do you get reports on revenue?
We run it once a month. And so we're looking at gross revenues, everything that we bring in on a monthly basis from all of our sources, and so once a month.
Are you getting the feedback in the month about how it might be going or trends that might be taking place, or are you just as surprised as everybody else?
Once a month is pretty good, and so we have a press conference at the Capitol once a month where we release gross revenue numbers and inform the public, and then a couple of weeks later we issue our Oklahoma Economic Report, which has our gross revenue numbers in it, as well as general revenue fund collections and comparison to the estimate and those kinds of things.
You've been in the job now, as I say, about a year. Or have you made changes in staffing, changes in organization, or duties that you'd like to tell us about?
Well, I wanted to get into the job and get a good sense of it and the folks there and the different areas there before I came in, making a whole bunch of changes. And so we've been there almost a year, and right now, me and my senior staff are going through a reorganization. We're trying to line things up by function and structure rather than by individual and personality. And so we're undergoing that process and hope to have some new plans, hopefully, and gain some efficiencies in January.
What are the financial elements that affect the state of Oklahoma's revenue the most? Is it the commodities? Is it the oil and gas industry besides the commodity aspect of it?
Well, we have a wonderful natural endowment of oil and natural gas, and that has been driving our economy. It's why we didn't sink as low as the rest of the states did through this Great Recession. So certainly the energy industry is a major component of it, but we're not in a vacuum, and so the national recession certainly hurt us, but we're getting through that, and things are looking a lot better.
What are the revenue, but as far as the income and all of those other elements that come in to affect revenue, what other factors are out there besides the oil and gas business? Well,
just consumer sentiment, for one. I mean, what they're doing as far as sales and retail consumption. Our major drivers in Oklahoma for revenue are income tax, sales tax, gross production, motor vehicle. Those are our major ones, and they're heavily dependent on how people feel about the economy.
Consumer confidence.
Absolutely, that is a big one, and sometimes it doesn't seem very rational when things, you say the fundamentals are there and things are looking good, but if folks don't feel it yet, then that's not going to encourage spending, which of course spurs employment and everything else. And so consumer sentiment is a big driver for us.
Have you seen any change in this year that you've been in consumer confidence or consumer sentiment? Do you see any shift going on, or is it pretty much like it was?
Well, we certainly see a shift in spending, and so if spending is an indicator, and it is, our folks are spending. Now, we had 1 month where motor vehicle collections were up over 100%. So there was a lot of pent-up demand. People were waiting to make that big purchase, and then all of a sudden, boom, back into the market in a big way. Our sales consumption taxes have been riding about 8% or more each month in growth over the prior year. Our income tax collections are up double digits over the prior year. So our two biggest sources of revenue show that Oklahoma is doing pretty good.
To validate your point, I remember in August I was reading in the Bloomberg weekly business magazine that consumer confidence was at some level of a historic low. That same week, we opened the outlet mall and 161,000 people showed up, shattering all industry records for across the country. So how have we removed ourselves from a consumer confidence position from the rest of the world?
I think that the folks here have more confidence in our economy. I think they have more confidence in our leadership. I think they see positive news reported in the newspapers as far as state government or state revenues are going, and they're employed by and large. Our unemployment rate, 5.9%, well below the national average of 9%. So I think folks feel better here, and that's reflected in their consumption, and I think they feel better because things are better here.
Do you see anything on the horizon, kind of near term, the next year or two, that can affect that in a negative way?
Oh, sure. Again, Oklahoma is not in a vacuum. We do operate as part of our national economy, and our nation operates as part of a global economy. Oklahoma needs a strong U.S. economy, just like the U.S. needs a strong global economy. We look at Europe, and that's concerning. Lots of problems with Italy and Greece, and certainly if Europe goes down with a second big recession, that will affect us and the nation, and then it will eventually get to Oklahoma. We look at Washington, and my goodness, there's so much problem and dysfunction in Washington. If our Congress doesn't get things under control with spending and our national debt problem, that's going to eventually have an effect on us here in Oklahoma, as we saw as we went through the debt crisis and the potential downgrading. It was very concerning, and that does shake up confidence, and that will eventually catch on here as well.
Energy sector is doing well. What about the ag sector?
It's doing well. What's been driving our numbers here has been energy, number one, manufacturing, number two. Ag has been healthy as well. So all three of those have performed well, but it is energy and manufacturing that's leading the way in Oklahoma.
What are you hearing, if anything, on a national level about the, what do they call it, the super committee in Congress that's got to come up with reductions in spending by a certain date, or the world comes to an end, or whatever it is? What are you hearing about the progress of the super committee?
You don't hear much of progress about Washington at all. I mean, there isn't much that we can report that we hear as good news coming out of Washington, but I think perhaps a motivating factor is what they built into that bill. If they don't reach an agreement, then they're going to have this across-the-board cut. And I don't think many in Washington want that to happen, and so hopefully to avoid that scenario, they'll reach some kind of compromise. It seems like they like to wait until the last minute before they reach a compromise, and so perhaps we'll see that again.
When the U.S. Credit rating got downgraded, how did that affect the state's investments, or did it?
Well, it could have. It did not. We are very restricted in what we can invest in, and the AAA rating is important for us. But two of the three left us at AAA, so we took an average.
And the state's rating in similar method?
It is. I mean, our rating actually is pretty good as far as we look across the states. We're at AA and better. We'd like to see that go up, but we have some things we have to work on before that can go up, and primarily that is pensions. We still have a lot of outstanding pension obligation that we need to address. Now, last session, of course, we did address that in a big way, but we got more work to do on that issue.
Ken Miller is the state treasurer. We'll have more with Ken right after this.
The thing that has made the most sense for me is realizing that I am still an educator, and that is what I do at the Chickasaw Nation. I'm Dr. Amanda Cobb-Greetham. I'm a historian, and I'm Chickasaw. The Chickasaw Cultural Center is amazing. It is a very, very special place devoted to the sharing and to the celebration of Chickasaw history and culture. State-of-the-art technology, exhibits that are not like anything I've ever seen. The Spirit Forest is incredible, and you feel as if you have actually just walked into a forest with huge trees all around you. It's timeless, and yet it's sort of also representative of our time depth, to really just sort of reach through time and touch the past. By the end of the exhibits, you really have a sense of Chickasaw cultural and political resurgence, and the extent to which we are a healthy, dynamic, and vital tribe today. Chickasaws have always been an inclusive people. This is something for the whole community and for the state of Oklahoma.
Every time our country imports energy, we're saying we've lost confidence in our own.
But Oklahomans know, under the land of the free lies the energy to be brave.
Advanced technology has led to vast discoveries of oil and natural gas that have doubled America's supply estimates.
Using one well to do the work of 10 in half the time, we're proving that America's best answers will always come from inside our borders.
Oklahoma's oil and natural gas industry, advancing our state, empowering our nation.
When you have something important to communicate, it becomes clear that there's a lot of competition for your audience's attention. So how can your message stand out and actually resonate with your audience? Legal Graphics has the answers. The team at Legal Graphics will work with you to plan, design, and even test your presentation to ensure your message will be heard and remembered. Call Legal Graphics today to schedule an appointment. The readiness is all.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Ken Miller, the state treasurer, is our guest. So many states are fundamentally upside down right now. How's Oklahoma doing?
Again, Oklahoma is just in an enviable position, whether you're looking at our revenue growth as a state, whether you're looking at our unemployment rate, whether you're looking at our confidence that our consumer has. We're in a different game than the rest of the nation. I've talked before about it's a tale of two economies, the Oklahoma economy and the national economy. So right now, things are right side up in Oklahoma.
Do you have opinions on some of these states that just seem like there's no way out?
Yeah, it seems like they're taking their cues from Washington, I guess, on getting their fiscal house out of order. So I gave a speech recently in Washington, and I told the folks in Washington that Oklahoma and our model should be what they're looking at. We balance our budget. We're very responsible in the way that we approach our budgeting, with spending 95% of the estimate. So lots of the things that are built into our Constitution really have provided us with some fiscal soundness. So I would say to the other states that are upside down, and even Washington, take a look at Oklahoma. We've been doing things right when we're talking about state finance. We can do better. There's more that we can do. There's better prioritization that we need to have. There is still wasteful spending that we need to change. But we've been moving in the right direction, and I think we're a good model for other states to look at.
$6 billion, $7 billion, where's the state revenue picture going to come in, do you think?
Well, you know, we put a $226 million rainy day deposit in after the last fiscal year because we came in significantly above the certified estimate. This year, we're coming in above the certified estimate again. Right now, it's about an average of 7% above the estimate. So if we continue moving in that direction, then we'll make another big deposit, and we should see, again, if things keep trending the way they are, a better certification for the next fiscal year. So I would expect that our toughest times with the budget revenue gaps are behind us, at least for now.
So, Will, the legislature was faced with making some very significant cuts last year. Will they be facing the same thing this year?
Well, the last few years, I had the pleasure of serving as the budget chair for 2 of those recession years, and then we had certainly last year was another one. But I think the revenue growth is back. So I don't think that revenue is going to be the problem. I think what's going to be the challenge for the next legislative session as it relates to budgeting is getting our prioritization better and focusing on core responsibilities. But also, you've got to take a look at the one-time sources of revenue that were built into the budget for the last few years. And you also have the return of the tax credit moratorium. It is expiring, and so those tax credits are coming back online. And that's something that has to be dealt with as well.
What about the state income tax? There's always talk about trying to lower it even lower than it is. I guess it's pushing 5% now. What do you think the legislature's pulse is going to be on that?
Right. The state income tax right now is 5.5%. In January, it will go down to 5.25%. There is a lot of discussion right now at the state capitol about the income tax and tax reform, and I expect we'll see a lot of that during the legislative session. We really do need to address taxes and how we finance government here in the state of Oklahoma. If you were to design a tax system to produce growth and prosperity and productivity, you would not have the one that we have today. So we do need to talk about it.
Get into that. What changes would you suggest?
Well, you know, it's a tough one. The governor put together a task force, and the recommendation to her from this task force was to eliminate the state income tax over a 10-year period. And they gave 3 suggestions for doing so. One of them was replacing it with sales tax. The other is replacing it with property taxes. And the other was just phasing it out over a 10-year period. So it's a discussion that needs to be had, but we really have to do it responsibly. Gone are the days when you could talk about eliminating the income tax and knowing that it would never be possible. Now it's possible. Republicans, such as myself, are in control of state government. So we need to approach the issue, as we do all fiscal issues, responsibly, because we have to make sure that we get it done the right way.
Do you like the idea of a consumption tax as opposed to an income tax?
You know, I prefer it, frankly. I think it's a better source. If you look at our graphs, it's been a more stable source of revenue for us than the income tax. But the income tax is our biggest single source of revenue. And so as we move forward in this discussion, which we should, we need to make sure that we're having responsible discussion, a discussion based on reality, not necessarily ideology. Because if we do implement a new tax structure, we own it, and we better get it right.
We hear a lot about the European debt problems, European debt crisis. We talked a little bit about it in the first segment. But what would the average Oklahoman feel if, for instance, Italy goes under? They're on the brink now as we tape the show. They've just changed their prime minister, I guess, and they're trying to form a government. If that fails, and if Italy goes under, what impact would that have here?
Well, Italy is a concern. Greece, of course, is the other major concern. And there's folks even talking about the potential breakup of the European Union, which is astounding that is a discussion that is currently underway. So we'll see. But we're not in a vacuum. We need a strong Europe. We need a strong Far East. We need a stable Mid-East. All of these things affect Oklahoma eventually. I mean, throughout the recession, we did a little bit better. But world energy demand does have an effect on Oklahoma. So we saw a lot of drills go silent during the recession, not necessarily because of the price, but because demand just wasn't there, as you would not expect it to be during a recession. So we need to have demand for energy and the other things that we produce here in Oklahoma. So we need a stable Europe. And we need a stable global economy.
Well, an unstable Europe is likely to have a very significant effect on our stock market.
Absolutely.
And what happens on our stock market certainly affects individual Oklahomans.
It does. It does. There's no doubt, because the largest source of wealth for most of us is our home. And then second to that is our retirement accounts in the stock market. And certainly when home values have declined, not here in Oklahoma, but elsewhere in the country, and stock portfolios have declined, then consumption declines and people quit spending. Well, it's the purchasing of goods and services that keep people employed. 70% of our economy is based on purchasing and consumption. So when people lose their wealth, that's going to have an effect. Certainly stock prices affect our wealth, which will then snowball everything else if that declines.
Are you concerned we're overly reliant on the energy industry going forward?
Well, that's a discussion that we have a lot too, and folks say, why don't we do more to diversify our economy? And I tell them we have, and we are, and we will, but that's not going to change our natural endowment, that blessing that the state of Oklahoma has of oil and natural gas. A recent study out had it at about a third of our economy is based on the energy industry. We're about a $150 billion economy in the state of Oklahoma. And a recent study shows that about $50 billion of that is due to the energy industry. So it is a big part of our economy, and we need to diversify and continue efforts to do so. But we're lucky to have that natural endowment.
I heard somebody comment recently after the couple of 3 earthquakes we've had that's our natural endowment, trying to get out because they're not drilling it up fast enough, trying to get out on its own.
I tell you, with the earthquakes, the drought, the
tornadoes,
flood, the tornadoes. I mean, I'm starting to think we might get locusts next. I don't know.
We got about a minute left. Ken, what would you like the citizens of Oklahoma to know about your job and the revenue that's coming in?
Well, I would like to thank them for giving me the opportunity to serve as state treasurer, because I truly do love the job. We're getting a lot done. We have more to do, but it is fun to serve the people of Oklahoma. And I think Oklahomans just need to feel good about where we are as a state right now. We are doing well. I think Oklahomans know that we're doing well, and we're lucky to be here.
All right. Ken Miller, State Treasurer, thanks very much for coming on the show.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Kent and I'll have a final word when we return.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
In Oklahoma, we enjoy a high quality of life due to good, well-paying jobs. Commercial real estate professionals play a significant role in bringing new businesses and investment to Oklahoma. The commercial real estate community has come together to market Oklahoma's commercial properties nationwide through a free public website, okcommercialproperty.com. We are invested in keeping Oklahoma strong and growing because economic development ensures quality of life.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We just finished the show with Ken Miller, the state treasurer.
Yeah, Ken is obviously a bright guy, highly formally educated and highly experienced in what he has learned about, and he's practicing what he has learned and doing a magnificent job really in the state treasurer's office. I think Oklahoma Christian University is very lucky to keep him on the faculty. I'm sure he is quite an exceptional professor. He's just got the kind of energy and the background and training that we really need at this particular time in that office, and we appreciate his time.
Highly qualified.
Absolutely.
The state of Oklahoma is lucky to have him.
If you draw up a job description for that office, I suspect you could take his bio and just make it work.
Yeah, and good for him for sticking at Oklahoma Christian and teaching on the side, because the state treasurer's demands are pretty large, but he loves teaching. You can sense it from him.
I don't remember whether he said it on camera or off camera, but he said his teaching at Oklahoma Christian keeps him grounded. He said, the students aren't overly impressed. They don't open the doors for him, I think he said.
Let's take a look at some website information that can give you more information about the Office of the State Treasurer. It's ok.gov/treasurer. That's ok.gov/treasurer. We'd also love you to go to our website and tell us about a show you'd like to see right here. Our website is theverdict.tv. That's theverdict.tv. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We're glad you joined us, and we want to thank Ken Miller for coming in and serving as the Oklahoma State Treasurer.
And we're going to get to hear more about Oklahoma Christian next week.
Next week with President Mike O'Neill.
Yes.
It's all coming up. We'll see you later on The Verdict.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.